Hello and welcome to Prudent IAS, one-stop solution for all the competitive exams. Today we are back with another interesting video. The approach for this video will be the same like all our previous videos. We'll choose one topic, do some discussion over the topic, then we'll phrase a sample model question as per UPSC standards and give you a sample model answer where I'll be telling you the do's and don'ts of answer writing. Most of the students must be aware which is the sample model question for the day. But most of you who are not aware, just join our group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS on Telegram. There we send all these questions in a day advance. So how it helps you? You can send us your model answers over there. You can do some peer-to-peer interaction. You can also access others' answers. And also we evaluate one answer daily at no cost. So without wasting time, let's begin with today's topic. The topic for the day is India's nuclear technology ambition. So focus will be on the nuclear technology. This comes under Science and Technology section, GS paper 3. So India is already pursuing a very ambitious nuclear expansion policy and the nation is targeting 100 gigawatt nuclear capacity by 2047. So with the escalations of the India and Pakistan, a term was very much in news, the nuclear power. Yes, India is a nuclear power, but this nuclear technology, apart from being used as the nuclear bombs, can be used as a clean energy as well. So we'll be focusing more on that aspect because it is a critical component of India's strategy to achieve net zero emissions by 2070. Nuclear energy does not give greenhouse gases as the byproducts and therefore it is a clean energy. The recent budgets have also introduced a new nuclear energy missions to accelerate this development. So the government is already focusing on this technology. What are the basics of the nuclear reaction? See, this is not your science and technology class and we'll be reading about the content as per the answer. But in case if you want this more discussion, in-depth discussion, then do let us know in the comment section and we'll make a detailed video on this topic. So first up we have the nuclear fission process. There are two nuclear processes, fission and fusion. First is the nuclear fission. Here what happens, a nuclear reaction in which a heavy atomic nucleus splits into two or more smaller nuclei, releasing neutrons and significant energy. So the basic structure, I hope you all must be aware, the center nucleus and an electron which is orbiting. Now this contains neutrons and protons, positively charged protons, negatively charged electrons orbiting in the basic structure. So what happens is this nucleus will split into two or more. This will split. Now how will it split? Not by itself but because of the hitting of another nuclei. How this fission is triggered? It is initiated when a neutron hits a fissile nucleus, that is uranium-235 or plutonium-239, certain radioactive elements which cause, because of the hitting, the instability is caused and ultimately the fission is triggered. It is a chain reaction. Why? Because the emitted neutrons can trigger further fission reactions leading to a chain reactions. For example, if it is emitting 3 neutrons, then each will emit 3 and the reaction can continue. So this is a chain reaction. What are the applications of nuclear fission? It is the principle behind both the nuclear reactors, which controlled reaction, as well as the atomic bombs where the uncontrolled reactions take place. So what we do is, when this fission is happening, if we want it to use as a nuclear bomb or atomic bomb, then we'll let this happen, that okay, you keep on producing energy and neutrons and keep on continuing on a chain reaction. But if we want to use it in a controlled way, then what we'll do is we'll absorb the emitted neutrons and then we'll use the energy as per our usage. So what is the example reaction? If we take uranium-235, trigger it with 1 neutron, then we get barium, krypton, 3 neutrons and 200 MeV of the energy. Now what is MeV? It is mega electron volt. It is a unit to measure the energy at this atomic or nuclear scale. So the barium and krypton are often said as the daughter nuclei, which are the byproducts of this reaction. What is the main fissile material here is, just keep in mind, uranium-235. What happens in a nuclear fusion? It is a reaction where two light atomic nuclei will combine to form a heavy nucleus, and then it will release enormous amounts of energy. Now you all must be aware that whenever two nuclei will come towards each other, they will repel. But this is an electromagnetic repulsion which can be overcome by the use of huge amounts of energy. So once that repulsion is avoided, then we can get a heavier nucleus by the fusion of these two light atomic nuclei. So it takes place under extremely high temperatures and pressure, millions of degrees Celsius. So it is very hard to achieve. Fusion of usually deuterium with tritium is considered the most feasible reaction for the energy production. Example. Now you can just look at this example. The byproducts are helium, which is an inert gas, a neutron, and energy. Energy can be in any form. It can be kinetic energy, it can be gamma energy, or it can be in the form of heat as well. Then what is natural fusion? Nuclear fusion is the source of energy in the stars. When you will be reading about the solar system, and then you will read that in the stars also this nuclear fusion keeps on taking place, because of which the huge amounts of heat is released. The enormous gravitational pressure in the stars create the perfect condition for the fusion reaction. So there the conditions are feasible for these reactions to take place, but to achieve these conditions by humans is very difficult. But once done, then it is very beneficial. How fusion is better than fission? We will also discuss this in the video. Now fusion advantages and challenges. As mentioned, it is a cleaner because there is no long-term radioactive waste. The only waste is the inert gas, helium. Abundant fuel, because hydrogen isotopes from seawater very easy. The fissile is very easy. You need not uranium-235 specifically. There is no risk of reactor meltdown. But what is the challenge? It is the sustaining these extreme conditions which are required for the controlled fissions. Now various projects are already working over this. The most important part of this topic is India's 3-stage nuclear power program. This was devised by Dr. Homi Bhabha to leverage India's limited uranium but abundant thorium resources. So India has very limited uranium and mostly thorium reserves. When we look at the uranium reserves, they are approximately 7,000 tons, and thorium might be 36,000 tons or more. And in this uranium also we have 99.3% non-fissile uranium and only 0.7% uranium-235, which is the main fissile material. So we look at these stages in just brief. The stage 1 will be the uranium utilization. In stage 2 there will be 2 parts. First will be the plutonium generation, and second stage will be production of uranium-233. Now again we'll use thorium in the third stage. First stage we'll optimally utilize limited uranium resources through pressurized heavy water reactors. In second stage we'll generate plutonium through fast breeder reactor using the fuel from stage 1. How we'll just look at it in some depth as well. We'll transition to thorium-based sustainable nuclear power using the advanced reactors. See, Dr. Bhabha was aware that we have thorium reserves in abundance. These are found in the monazite sands all over the Western Ghats and Kerala. So we can use these for our nuclear programs. How this can be done? We'll look at each in some detail. So yes, the first stage, pressurized heavy water reactor. Basic things you need to keep in mind. What is the fuel over here? It is natural uranium. Now, already mentioned, natural uranium comprises of uranium-238, which is not a good fissile material, but it has uranium-235, which is very less. So what we'll do, we'll use this fuel. Then we'll use the moderator and coolant as well. So each reactor either uses a moderator or coolant. But in the fast breeder reactor, we'll see how we can skip the moderator. What is the moderator and coolant? They are the same. That is, heavy water is used. That's why pressurized heavy water reactor. What are the byproducts? Plutonium-239, which is a fissile material and extracted from the spent fuel. So see, this process is not to be explained in very less time, but we have a very limited time for this video. If you want in-depth explanation of these stages of this program, just let us know and I'll prepare a detailed lecture of on this video along with all the reactions, the pros, the cons, and how this is going to function. For now, this is just the base, the fuel, the moderator, coolant, and the byproduct. What we'll get from this stage 1 is plutonium-239, which is a fissile material, not as good as uranium-235, but still it is a fissile material. Our goal is to establish the infrastructure, extract plutonium for the next stage. We have already achieved this stage. We have the pressurized heavy water reactors in Tarapur, Kakrapur, Kalapakkam, etc. Next is the stage 2, which is a fast breeder reactor. What happens here? The plutonium which we derive from stage 1, that is Pu-239, will be mixed with thorium. See here, the reaction will take place in 2 stages. First, what we'll do is we'll use this plutonium as the fuel and we'll keep on generating this. Once we'll have enough inventory of plutonium, then we'll move towards part 2 of stage 2, where we'll mix it with thorium. So this part is more important, that's why I have mentioned it over here. So once we have the enough inventory for plutonium, then we'll mix it with thorium-232, which is present in abundance in India. Here we won't use a moderator because we'll use a coolant, which is liquid sodium. It is excellent heat transfer capabilities. It has excellent heat transfer capability. There is no requirement of a moderator in the fast breeder reactor. How the reaction is going to take place? This will convert thorium-232 into uranium-233 as the byproduct, and this will be faster than the fission of plutonium-239. Hence, it is known as the fast breeder reaction. This will be a very fast process, and we'll get the main byproduct, which will be used in the third stages, uranium-233. What is our goal? Under stage 2, part 1, we'll maximize the plutonium production to build the future reactors and enable the transition to thorium. Once we have this inventory done, then we'll produce uranium-233. What is the present status? We have a prototype fast breeder reactor at Kalapakkam, Tamil Nadu, and this is under commissioning. Yes, it is delayed, but the news, as per the news, it will be soon commissioned at max by 2026. So you need to keep a check and update it once it's operational, because if the year in which it will be operational, there are high chances of getting a question from this topic in UPSC, because that will be our first fast breeder reactor. The stage 3, this will make the whole program sustainable. How? This will be thorium based reactor. What we'll choose as the fuel? The uranium-233, which we got from second stage part 2. That is uranium-233, which was bred from thorium-232 in the fast breeder reactor. So there is no problem of getting thorium. It is in abundance. Now from that we got uranium as well, uranium-233. So we'll hit this uranium-233 with thorium-232, and this will again release uranium-233, and the reaction will go on for up to 500 years. So it will be a self-sustained reaction. And India has 25% of the world's thorium reserve, which is mostly in Kerala and Tamil Nadu as mentioned. Thorium itself is not fissile, but it is very fertile. So what it does is it absorbs the neutron which is released, and it becomes uranium-233, which is a fissile material. So what is our goal? Achieve long-term energy independence using indigenous sources. By using these sources, we won't have to rely on uranium-235, which is in very less amount. We will have a self-sustained nuclear reactor. This can be used in the future technology, which will be advanced heavy water reactor designed to use thorium and produce minimal waste. The status, of course, in advanced research and development stage. Pilot reactors are being developed, but we are still on stage 2. Once the stage 2 will be operationalized, then we can expect the development of stage 3. But this was the whole 3-stage program devised by Dr. Homi Jahangir Bhabha. Coming to India's nuclear capability, what all UPSC can ask from this question. I have tried to jot down all the points, but yes, this is all in very brief. You will have to read about these in some more depth to answer the questions. These are all the facts which can be used for the answers. So we have a civilian nuclear program which is managed by the Department of Atomic Energy under PMO, because all these ministries and departments are under PMO. They are very important ones and critical ones. The power production is handled by NPCIL, that is Nuclear Powered Corporation of India Limited. India currently operates 7 gigawatt nuclear capacity, which is very less, because our goal is to expand to at least 22 gigawatts by 2031. Very important facts. Please always use these quotes while writing the answers. The reactors that include is indigenous pressurized heavy water reactors. We have some imported light water reactors as well, which are from Russia in Kundankulam. Next, the cooperation under 2008 Indo-US Civil Nuclear Deal. Very important for IR as well. You need to mention all these deals while writing about the Indo-US relations if the question asks. Next, India has also signed a nuclear agreement with countries like France, Russia, Canada, as well as Australia. So we are giving very much priority to this nuclear technology. Then we have some strategic as well as military capability. We conducted our first nuclear test in 1974 at Pokhran. The operation was called as Smiling Buddha. We declared nuclear weapon state after 1998 Pokhran 2 test, which was Operation Shakti. So now India is a nuclear powered country, but we follow a credible minimum deterrence and no first use doctrine. So this makes us as a responsible nuclear power. Now, what is a nuclear triad? India has achieved full nuclear triad, that is the ability to launch the nuclear weapon from land, air, as well as sea. So very important for India. We have Agni series, that is Agni 5, which can be launched from land. Then we have Mirage 2000 and other striking aircrafts which can launch these from air. And then we have INS Arihant class nuclear powered submarines. So they can be sea-based deterrents. So we have the nuclear triad from all 3 segments. It enhances the second strike capability and strategic deterrence. So we are not going to use nuclear technology at first because we have no first use doctrine, but in case the need arises, then we have the capability to deter the nuclear by second strike capability from the nuclear triad. What are the key nuclear institutions in India? First up, we have BARC, that is Bhabha Atomic Research Center. What it does is nuclear research, fuel cycle development, reactor research and development. So all the educational aspects are covered over here. Then we have NPCIL, that is Nuclear Powered Corporation of India Limited, already discussed. It helps in construction and operation of the nuclear power plant. So the field work is done by NPCIL. Then AERB, that is the Economic Energy Regulatory Body. What will it do? It will regulate the nuclear safety and radiation protection. So a safety check and balance mechanism is also here. Then we have Bhavani, that is Bharatiya Navikiya Vidyut Nigam Limited. Its role is to design and construction of fast breeder reactors, because we are still on stage 2. So to fasten up the pace, we have a dedicated organization, institution for fast breeder reactors. Next up, we have IGCR, Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research. Again, the advanced research in fast breeder reactor technology and material science. So these two mainly focus on the fast breeder reactors. You must know about them in more detail because we are at the stage of getting the first fast breeder reactor being operationalized by 2026. This will be very helpful while answering the questions. Now, the relevance of UPSC under various parameters. First up, for prelims, the basics of fusion and fission. nuclear 3-stage program, locations of all the nuclear plants, international cooperation, the deals, etc. can be asked. Under GS3 Science and Tech, we have role of nuclear energy in India's energy mix, because this is a clean energy, so the role is enhanced. Strategic significance of nuclear capability, the nuclear triad. Issues like nuclear liability, water, waste management, safety hazards, etc. See, the waste generated is often radioactive, so the NGOs and a lot of people often oppose these programs. So we need to write points for both for and against the topic while addressing the issues. For essay and ethics, science without conscience is the ruin of the soul. Very important statement that can use some examples from nuclear technology. Can nuclear energy be a green future or a ticking bomb? Again, a very analytical question where we will have to present both the sides and justify our points in the essay or ethics paper. The major segment of our video is always the model question and model answer. So let's quickly jump to this. The model question for the day is: discuss the challenges India faces in transitioning to thorium-based nuclear reactors and how these can be addressed. So this question has one directive word, that is discuss. We'll cover all the sides of the topic in question. That is, first we'll write about all the challenges. That is the first dimension of the question. Then what is the second dimension? How these can be addressed. Then we'll phrase some suggestions that how they can be, mitigation efforts can be done to address the challenges of the first dimension. This is a 15-mark, 250-word question. What I suppose and often ask you to do, just pause this video, write an answer yourself. What you can do is send us your answers in the group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS on Telegram, or you can just do some self-evaluation when I'll be discussing the answer in the next slide. Please make sure to use a timer while writing the answers, because in UPSC, the whole game is to just complete the paper in given time. If you are able to finish all the answers, then trust me, your chances are going to be 70% higher than other students who have not completed the paper. Now, coming to the model answer, we'll always follow the introduction, body and conclusion approach. No matter what GS we are answering, we'll use this approach only. Introduction, we won't write these structural heading. We'll start from here. We'll just give some insights about the topic, because this is a long answer. We can write two to three lines. For example, India has vast reserves of thorium, 25% of the global reserves, very important. Just mention such facts. Mostly in the form of monazite sands. Recognizing this, Homi Bhabha has devised a 3-stage nuclear program with thorium-based reactors forming the 3rd stage. So we have kept the demand of question in mind. We have told some facts, insights about the topic, that is the thorium reserves. Then we have come up to the program where we will be discussing what are the challenges that we are facing. So in brief, all the key facts about reserves, the key personality pioneer of this 3-stage nuclear program has been mentioned. We'll address the first dimension under a SEPSI. Now slowly we are proceeding from the basics to the advanced classes, and this day by day the questions will also start getting more critical. I have already discussed about all the parameters of the basic structure in my previous videos. I am not going to repeat it from now onwards. So if you have not watched those videos, just go back and have a look at all the structural points that I have mentioned, like the heading, subheading structure, what are the key points you need to keep in mind, the alphanumeric digits, etc. So yes, coming back to the answer, we'll use this heading as mentioned in the question as per the demand of the question. Then we will use a structure where we will be giving some subheadings. These subheadings need to be very clear and precise. Under these, we'll write points in very concise manner so that the topic is covered, but the word limit is also not breached. So thorium-232 is fertile but not fissile. This is a very big challenge, because if it would had been fissile, then we can directly use this as the fuel in the reactors, but this is not the case. It needs to be converted into fissile uranium-233 via neutron absorption and decay, which requires an external fission driver like plutonium-239 or uranium-235. So we use plutonium-239. Then technology gaps. India is still in the R&D prototype stage for advanced heavy water reactors, because we have not yet finished the fast water reactions, breeding reactions, and it is kept on being delayed, and still now the news is coming that it will be operationalized by 2026, but let's see how it goes. I hope it really gets operationalized, because we need to fasten up the pace. Handling uranium-233 is a complex process because of its high radioactivity, and it has contaminants like uranium-232. Now, it is very important from a humanitarian perspective as well that we cannot let these radioactive waste lie idle, because they can be very dangerous for the civilians. Reactor design, and then again disposing of these radioactive waste is also a question which needs to be addressed. So reactor design and safety, again, thorium fuel cycle demand new reactor designs and enhanced safety protocols for handling the gamma radiation. Now, as already mentioned, whenever a nuclear reaction takes place, it releases huge amounts of energy that can be in the form of gamma radiation, kinetic energy, or heat. Heat and kinetic energy can be tackled, but this gamma radiation is very difficult to handle. So next up, because this is a 15-mark question, we will write at least 4 to 5 points. If it would have been a 10-mark question, then we can use 2 to 3 points, that would suffice. But here we will try to cover as much dimensions as possible. What I want you guys not to do is, often students write about 1 or 2 subheadings and they'll write in more detail. Okay? They'll write in a paragraph. But avoid, just try to add as many dimensions, as many subheadings as possible, and the explanation part can be very brief, because if you will write about only 2 in detail, the examiner will get a view that you have very less in-depth analysis of the topic. So keep as many dimensions possible in the answer and explanation in brief. India's nuclear reprocessing plants are optimized for uranium-plutonium cycles. Thorium cycles require dedicated reprocessing infrastructure. Now again, economic viability, high capital cost, a very common challenge and issue in all the reaction programs. Long gestation period, as can already be seen for a stage 2. We are not even at stage 2. How we'll proceed towards stage 3. Uncertain return on investments deter the private as well as global investment. So these are all the challenges. We'll quickly move towards the second dimension, which is the way forward. Now here what you can do is, either you can choose this heading, or what I would suggest my students to write is, write heading as per the question demand. So what was the question? Just quickly look at it. Okay. How these can be addressed. Now what challenges that India is facing in transitioning to thorium based. So addressing thorium based, transition to thorium based challenges, addressing the challenges for the thorium based nuclear reactors. If we'll choose this heading, this will be more self-explanatory. This will clearly say that, okay, you have addressed the demand of the question, the second dimension has been properly addressed. But because most of the students rely on this heading, that's why I have given you an option. And as an evaluator, I always prefer this heading. So write a self-explanatory heading as per the demand of question, that will fetch you more marks. Next, what students do is, when they'll write this subheading, they'll use this keyword, this short form R&D. Before using any short form, you need to mention it first. For example, what you will do is, you will write research and development as a full form, right? Then you will write R&D in bracket. And after mentioning it once, now if the need arises, then you can use R&D in the future in the answers. But at least at once you need to mention the full form, and then only you can use this short form in the answer. Complete commissioning and testing of. Now this has been used as a short form. Why? Because we have already mentioned the full form in the previous dimension. Indian molten salt breeder reactors. Then we need some international collaborations, PPPs, public-private partnerships, policy and funding, very basic mitigating measures which can address all the challenges. We can learn from the research in Norway, US and China. We can incentivize the domestic industries. We can also start mission innovation, dedicated funding for these, and national energy policies as well. So these are all parameters where we can write about the mitigations or the measures for the challenges. Just have a look at it once. Now the most important part is conclusion. No matter what the answer is, always write a conclusion. India's transition to thorium reactors is a strategic necessity for India's sustainability. So we have written about the importance of this topic. Then, though challenges persist, focused investments in R&D, infrastructure and global collaboration can help realize the full potential of this indigenous resource. So, very important what we have. See, if this was a 10-mark answer, then we would have written just this line. But it is a 15-mark question, so 2 lines. So first we have written about thorium reactors, importance, the transition, how important it is for India. Then we have written a very balanced summarizing conclusion that yes, challenges are persisting. Therefore, what words we can use? Despite challenges, however, though, all these words can be used while writing a balanced conclusion. Focused investments in R&D infra. So we have given some measures, which was the second dimension of the question. And then we have written about this indigenous resource, because thorium will be an indigenous resource and we won't have to rely on imports. So just look at the choice of words, how concise and precise the conclusion can be, and the word limit is still not breached. This is what you need to develop, but this will come by daily answer writing practice. All of a sudden you cannot develop these. So keep in mind the time which you are taking for writing these answers, the structure, your handwriting, and all the parameters which I have already mentioned in the previous videos. This is it for today. I hope the topic is pretty much clear to you all. Till then, subscribe our channel Prudent IAS on YouTube and join our Telegram group Answer Writing by Prudent IAS. We'll be back with another video super soon. Thanks for watching.